Hey, Mike Callahan here with SimpleGrowth. A lot of people have been asking about what our done-for-you setup of Service Autopilot looks like for the lawn care industry or lawn care businesses specifically. So in typical fashion, I thought I would make a video to give you a not only a high-level overview of what we do and how we set Service Autopilot and train people to Service Autopilot, but I'm actually going to kind of lift the hood and show you exactly how we set Service Autopilot up for folks. 3 or 4 different options that we have. So based on the size of the business or what you want to get out of it, all of that is now available for you. So in this video here, if you're joining me live or recorded, feel free to ask any questions and I'll answer them at the end of the video. But I'm going to go in and dial in and talk about how SimpleGrowth as a certified advisor can set up Service Autopilot, resell you Service Autopilot, and literally if you are just using Service Autopilot and you want to see what the best workflow and setup of Service Autopilot looks like, stick around in this video and we're actually going to show you. But we're diving in and showing you how SimpleGrowth can set up and train you to use Service Autopilot for your lawn care business for success. So what took me 7 to 8 years in my lawn care business, Callahan's Lawn Care, we've condensed this down into a very simplistic but extremely powerful process. So as you set up Service Autopilot, there's traditionally 20 to maybe 35 screens that you need to hit depending on the services and what you do in SA. What we do is when we set this up, we actually go in and set it up, test it, and then train you how to use it. But once it's set up, we can condense all that learning and pain sometimes that you feel and frustration and nail that down into about 5 or 6 screens of success. So what would take years to set up for workflow and process and how to do it, we can get it done for you in as little as probably 10 days, and then be able to train you how to use the 5 to 6 screens to success, either in person or over screen share. So I'm going to lift the hood of what we do, what we don't do, and how we do it. And at the end of this, of interest, I'm actually going to show you the 3 or 4 different options with pricing, how we set up Service Autopilot for people in the lawn care industry in this video. So any questions, feel free to drop them. If you're watching live, let me know that you can actually hear the audio here. Looks like everything's going well, but you never know on a live video such as this. So I'm going to suck this down here in a minute and go in and get this set up for us here so we can actually take a look at it. But this is the setup of Service Autopilot, literally from lead acquisition through estimating, through billing, scheduling, and fulfillment, and everything else in between. So this is how we set this up. And I'm going to shrink the screen down here so you can actually see it. We're also going to be running a 2-day implementer event several times throughout the year. So I'll actually, before I forget, I'm going to take the link here and put this in. But this event is going to be actually a 2-day event that you can actually watch from live in your office and have the ability to get up to 6 months of the recorded version. So if you're looking and you're busy right now and you can't do it, but you want access to this for up to 6 months, we'll put that in here. So 2-day SA set up event. And I will put this right in the notes. So if you're watching this, there is a link. It's going to be next month, and it's going to be 2 days remote. So you can actually log in with us. We don't just give you the fish, but we're going to teach you how to fish. So this is going to be really what we're going to be going over for 2 days. We do this one-on-one remote and one-on-one in person as well in a done-for-you fashion. So without any further delay, I am going to break this down, what this looks like here for you. So the first thing we do here is it's a done-for-you model if you do it with us. But if you're setting this up yourself, this is how we recommend Service Autopilot fully set up. So right off the bat, we go out and build out an estimate request. Going into V3, this is something we're going to be doing with a new version, anybody moving forward. But basically what we're going to be doing is giving you the strict HTML code for you or your webmaster to embed that on your website. When somebody hits your website, they're now automatically entered into SA with no double entry, and we're going to track the sales source, how they heard about it. So obviously off the website, we know they've come in and they're automatically entered into SA. And it's a do or a task to be assigned to a specific person or role with a deadline to get that estimate out within the first 24 hours. If a client calls, we're going to go in and train you how to enter that client in for success from day one. There's certain points of information that we need in the system for success. So we're going to show you what to enter in. And I'm actually going to jump into SA and show you some of this live on this video as well. But we're going to show you how to get the client in, and track the sales source. How do they hear about it? So right from lead acquisition, whether they came from the website or the client calls your office, you've got good data in, so we have good data out. So we've laid the foundational pieces of Service Autopilot. So we know how many leads came from each marketing source or saw your truck or referred by a client. So we can go in and say each person, or so many people came from each lead source, and out of those, how many converted into a client. In addition, if there's a marketing spend into that lead source, such as like a Facebook ad or a 9-around or a door hanger, we can tell you what your cost per acquired client is. So we go out to grow and scale a business. Now it's non-emotional. It's a math game. In addition, once you have some information inside Service Autopilot, we can go in and actually calculate a client lifetime value. So if you have a lead from, let's say, Home Advisor, it costs you maybe $25 to get that client, but maybe that lead's only worth $250 lifetime value. So a Home Advisor client is worth $250 lifetime, but maybe a Facebook ad is going to run you, let's just say, $150 to get that new client, but the lifetime value of that Facebook client could be $8,000 or $9,000. So that's a different equation as we're breaking this down. So from foundations, we want website acquisition, and when the client calls, we want to enter and track the sales source, track the marketing expense, and be able to run really non-emotional data points of when we go to scale that business, where we need to be putting money each year to grow that business predictably, and how long they're on average they're going to last with you, so we can predict some attrition or churn, cancellation, and start to double down when we know that's going to come statistically. So that is the benefit of this. Next thing is, now that they're entered in the SA, automatically with no double entry off the website or the client calls, we've got them in there. So the first thing we're doing is we're going in through estimate creation. And this is where about 90% of the time is usually spent in a lawn care business, whether it's maintenance or design build. I'm going to give examples in SA and show you how we do that later in this video. But the idea is we go in and tackle custom fields, or these job variables. So this could be turf square footage, linear length of bed, number of small, medium, large shrubs, minutes or hours, whatever those are. We're going to capture those and put a matrices behind them. Now, if you're watching the video and you're like, Mike, that all sounds great, but I have no idea how long it takes our crews on average to do these things. Well, there's 3 types of ways we estimate. The first one I'm not recommending, but including myself, we all started there. So the first is we go up in a lawn mowing example. We go up to the house and we look at it. We go, based on my market, I think this is a $35 lawn. So that's what I'm going to charge. So obviously not probably the way you want to go about it, but when we all start out, that's usually how we start. The second way we go in, traditionally as we evolve, is we look at it and go, okay, I think based on my experience of mowing, blowing, and edging, that should take about an hour. So if my hourly goal per employee, revenue per man hour is $50, we would take the projected 1 hour and multiply that by the 50. So we should charge $50 to mow, blow, and edge that lawn. And we can track those things in SA, where you can plug in how many minutes or hours, and would automatically calculate the price, the budgeted time, the cost before profit. So we're starting to pull that emotion out of that and starting to build a systematic business with predictable results. Now, the third evolution of that is really going in and creating a production rate-based estimating system, whether it's the Moore's multiple overhead recovery system or another system as well. Doesn't really matter. But the idea is, we know based on historical data, based on the equipment and the guys and girls on our team, how long it should take to mow and blow and edge maybe a 5,000 square foot lawn. So what would happen is you would go into either Maps Pro or an online measuring tool and measure the property. And then when you do that, it would calculate off these custom fields and matrices and calculate a price, a budgeted time for the crews, and a cost before profit. So you can see your net projected profit. That's going to be the way we go out and standardize our estimating. So the gentleman that ran Callahan's Lawn Care, he'd only done fertilizing. He'd never mowed, mulched, pruned. But when he was able to just plug in the non-emotional variables, our estimates were almost identical, within pennies on the dollar. So we're going to take what's in your head and standardize it. But if you don't have those production rates yet, we can go in and get those custom fields or job variables built out. So in 3 to 6 months from now, you can evolve into a standardized production rate-based estimating system, not on an industry average, but actually what it takes you to do it yourself. So that's the idea here. We're grabbing those job variables and we've got a matrices behind it. So whether it's based on hours and minutes or standardized production rate, we want to be able to set the system up so we can evolve into that production rate if we don't have it. But once we have that, we'd go in and hit the add the estimate button. And then what pops up is a option to grab a template. So we're going to go in and have a lead or client template. Because in my opinion, there's a completely different conversation if someone's never done work with you as a lead or a client that already has. So we give you the ability to have a separate communication based on where they're at in the client life cycle. So that's obviously really important. Below that, where I've got the scrolling feed here, I have create an estimate and save. So we go in and hit quote to all the services you want. Anything in draft doesn't show. But automatically, when we pull that template up, every service that would be applicable has a price, a budgeted time, and a cost before profit. And if you're looking design build or anything that has materials, product and materials would be in there as well with markup. So now we've got this estimate. We're going to try to close them over the phone or in person. But if we can't, we're going to hit save. We want to email this estimate out. So we hit add an email. That pre-templated document loads complete with marketing content that's standardized. So you don't have to retype that estimate email every time or copy and paste out of Word or whatever else some people are doing. It's a standardized process. You hit a button, the email loads. There's a clickable link in there that the consumer can click and open up the estimate live in a web browser, mobile, or on a computer, and click and sign and accept. But we're standardizing the process. So basically, potentially the new client has this estimate. Either they're going to accept it or not accept it. If they don't accept it up crop here, what we're going to do is train you how to close out an estimate. I made a video a few days ago of proper way of closing out a lead. So what we're going to do is close out the leads that don't convert or time out past 20 days. So we're going to have a really clean database hygiene. So the database is clean. But we now see all the leads in the system that can possibly convert into a client. And we can also see all the leads that have gone past the point of no return or haven't accepted the estimate. So we have a real clean look of current people that can become clients and current people that are in hopefully a long-term nurture being put into an automation for upsell and education. Now, the next thing is if we've won the estimate, we're going to go in and they'll automatically checked off one if the consumer's accepted it online. But if they haven't, we're going to physically check that. At this point, we would train you to schedule off the estimate. And when you do that, it's going to force you to convert that lead into a client. So Mrs. Smith is no longer in Service Autopilot as a lead and a client. Once again, database hygiene. We want really good data in so we get really good data out. And that is the process we use. So we're going to convert that lead into a client, and then we're going to schedule off the physical estimate. A lot of people are grabbing pen and paper, scratching things down in their office. This is where data and mistakes happen. And when the office is busy in the spring, as we all know, these mistakes happen. So if we schedule off the estimate, the price, the budgeted time, the cost before profit is on there, and any products, materials. No double entry. It's a streamlined process. Once again, we're taking all the screens and essays, condensing them down to 5 to 6 screens to success. Standardized workflow that we can train anybody to do this in 7 to 10 days. But then we're going to schedule off that estimate. Everything goes over, and we're going to go over to scheduling work. And when we go over to scheduling work here, we're going to go over the different types of scheduling. So we have a one-time job. We know the day that we're scheduling. We're going to have reoccurring scheduling. Those are weekly or bi-weekly mowings or anything that's on a repetitive basis. In addition to that, we have a waiting list job. So maybe as we're going in and we're going to do a spring or fall cleanup, maybe it needs to be done in that month, but it doesn't need to be done today. So it's going to give you the ability to schedule for route optimization and minimize that non-billable drive time. So in addition, we have fertilizing or maybe a bed package or shrub package. Package jobs are going to allow you to do similar scheduling, a waiting list, but maybe we're going to go out and do a pre-emergent between April 1st and April 30th. Doesn't need to be done exactly on the 10th, but somewhere in that 30-day range. So it allows you to optimize those stops, and maybe any callbacks for post-emergent can be optimized in there as well. At the bottom, we're going to double check the price and make sure we have budgeted time. If you're following our workflow, it's already there. There's no worries. Next thing is we're going in and routing. So there's 3 main types of routing in Service Autopilot that we train to. First one is manual. So it's literally a drag and drop. Second one is going to be a free optimization. And the third one is a paid optimization through Maps Pro, 23 or more stops. Now, what we're going to recommend is either the optimized free or optimized pay initially, and then we go through the manual to adjust any of the little tweaks. The last one is group stops. I don't recommend it, but it does work as advertised. It takes the latitude and longitude of the properties and groups them together, but it doesn't pay attention to bodies of water, or highways, or different things like that. So for most lawn care companies, it's not ideal. So we're going to train you to the 3 main types of scheduling there. Now, in addition to that, what we also want to do is double check the route order. So we have pins on there. We show route orders. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sequentially. And then we can manually tweak those if need be. But now we know we have a good optimized route. Now, if it's a reoccurring route, we can save that and have that come out each time. So I will address one of the misconceptions that service autopilot routing may not be the best. It actually is really good. The problem is when people don't have the system set up correctly, there's an issue. If you don't have a starting address for your route, the system doesn't know what to optimize off of. So we go in and tackle some of these misconceptions. And a lot of times when we go into an SA account that's already set up, a lot of the dots are there, they're just not connected. So we optimize the dot connection for workflow. Any questions on the video, feel free to drop them live or record, and I'll answer them as well. But next we go to the dispatch board. So this is how we get the crews out. So we're going to show you how to adjust the flies on the crew. So if we have a no-call, no-show employee, we're going to drag and drop them off that crew to adjust the crews before we start, so we have good data in, good data out. And where this is important is if you're running payroll and SA, or even if you're not, the reports are going to drive off who's on that crew. In addition, it's going to adjust the budgeted time that crew sees for the day. I'm going to select all the jobs, dispatch, and either print or get them on the mobile. I'm going to recommend the mobile, but we do have some clients that still use print, and that's fine too. We'll train that workflow as well. The next thing is we go to the closeout day screen. And this is probably the most important screen in the whole entire system, in my opinion. And it's the one that's rushed through. And the reason why it's the most important is it's the last point a physical person or a human can actually touch the system before production repays, payroll, and invoicing can be fixed before it's automated. So in Service Autopilot, whether you bill daily, weekly, or monthly, the system automatically, midnight or 12:01, generates those invoices. So this is key. We want to make sure you get good data in, so you have good data out on your invoices, and you're comfortable with what's going out. In addition, I hit on it a little bit, job costing reports. So job costing reports are based on the data on the closeout day screen. So the biggest mistake we see is somebody clocks in and out of a job under a minute. What happens is the crew gets there, they get excited, they go out and do the job, and then they go to the next job. They're like, oh, wait a minute, we forgot to clock in. So they clock in and clock out. Looks like you made $1,000 an hour probably, which you didn't. Which is even more scarier though, is if that was a time and materials job and you were billing it by the hour, you only captured about a minute when maybe you were there 3 or 4 hours. So we want to make sure we address these things by a quick 2 to 3 minute sanity check each day. So you have good data in. So your production repays, your job costing, and payroll and invoicing are all correct day in and day out. And it's just this very quick, systematic way of working those 5 to 6 screens of success. Now, the last thing is invoice and collection. So what we do is we go through and train you how to charge cards, email invoices, print invoices, all in the click of three separate clicks, very quick. In charge cards, you can batch them out. You can do one credit card or several thousand in a matter of 3 to 4 minutes. So it's really convenient to get that cash in the bank. The next thing is below, kind of where my picture is here, is enter prepayments and contract installment billing. So we train you how to do prepayments and installment billing. Installment billing is usually the biggest mistake that I see. So a lot of people will go in and have a landscape maintenance contract. So maybe under the contract, it's $1,000 a month, and it covers the mowing, shrub pruning, mulching, and maybe bed weeding, but doesn't include the pruning of the trees. So what should predominantly happen, in my opinion, is each job should be set up underneath the contract. And when we create the separate job in each client, it's tied to the contract, so it doesn't double bill. Most people do not put a price or budgeted time under the jobs under the contract because they're afraid it's going to actually double bill the customer. If it's set up correctly, it will not. But if you don't have a price and budgeted time associated with that part of the contract, you've got no data in, so you really have no data out for job costing and production reporting. So it's really important to have that, in my opinion. And then that pruning, if it's not included in the contract, we can bill that at the time of service or however you bill, and you can have that ancillary service on the back end of that. So before I hop into this here, hopefully that makes sense. Now what I'm going to do is dive into Service Autopilot and actually put this into motion. And then if it's of interest, I can actually show you what we charge for the different options to set this up for you in Service Autopilot and train you. So first thing I do is go right into Service Autopilot. And this is one of our test accounts. So following the same process in that flow chart. If they hit the website, they're automatically entered in and they alert somebody. If you need to manually do it when they call, we go into the plus icon and add a lead. Now, when we're doing this, there's certain information you really recommend. First name, last name. If it's a commercial client, we put in the commercial client here. Email and cell phone, always put the cell phone in there by default. And we want to fill in the service property address, and it automatically transfers over to billing. So I'm just going to throw in a test client here. And it's going to do some dupe checking as well, which is actually pretty cool because obviously if they're already in there, you don't want a duplicate contact. So we've got tester 523, and we've got our test address in here. Now I'm going to put in my cell phone number here from the client. Underneath that, provider, you do not need to touch this. This is a legacy feature, so just ignore it. But the idea is we got first name, last name, company name if there is, service address will automatically populate to billing, email, cell phone number, very important. When in doubt, put it in cell phone. Automations and other features that SA's making are tying into this field. So that's really important. The next thing here is master property. So if you have a property management group that has multiple properties, or a person owns multiple properties, that's how you would go in. You click this and it would list all the properties, and you select the master property. Under details, if we go in and next step is ask them, the account type. So we need to select commercial or residential because that's going to allow our reporting and our automations to dial into based on the type of property. Now under sales, we want to go in and select the sales source. So how did they hear about us? Was it a nine around by direct mail? And if this wasn't a test account, we'd have the list all the leads and clients. So if Mrs. Smith referred somebody, we could credit that referral to her. So when I talked about having all the lead sources and how many people came in from each lead, and if it was paid advertising, we could track that. So this is the foundational parts of the system and how we recommend setting it up. So once that's in there, we're good. Once they become a client, while I'm on screen, I'll show you some of this. Billing here is how we override the system. So this test account has monthly invoicing net due 10. But let's say this person, we wanted to bill them daily, and we were going to give them 15 days. We could manually override the system here, particular to this lead or client. So that's how we would tackle that. Once everybody's in, we're going to go in and hit save. Now they're in the system, and it's going to do some dupe check because we've obviously done a lot of test clients on this. And I'm going to actually go over here to get the text off the screen so you can actually see everything else we're doing. So as we're in Service Autopilot, this long gray bar now represents a lead, and that's the visual clue, as well as some of the avatars that we'll see up here in the search bar. The red L next to the avatar is also a lead. Once they become a client, it's just a black person avatar with no red L. When it's a canceled client, that black avatar would be with a slash through it. And then if it's a cancel or a closed out lead, there's no avatar. So there's a bunch of visual clues that we train on for workflow and process and systems. So you're not having to click in and dial in to see where they're at in the customer life cycle. So the next thing here is we would go in and tile up to property measurements. And when we go into property measurements, we pull up the satellite view. And this is all natively inside Service Autopilot. There is a small additional fee I highly recommend using it. It's a workflow time sync, and it creates a standardized process. But we go in and measure this property here. And I'm not going to be too detailed just because of the time of the live video. But within a couple hundred square feet, you're good. It comes out in the wash. I would not be overly worried about that. And once you've got the area, you can double click at, and we can label it up in the upper left here. So I'm going to call this turf, and I'm going to go in and highlight it in green so I know. And then I'm going to add in a pool, if it had this, to show you some of the functionality. So I'm going to make this pool blue, and I'm going to go in and drop a pool in here. So the idea is whether it's commercial or residential, you can go in now and add or subtract different parts of the property without having to leave the screen. This is why Maps Pro is so powerful. So this plus icon up here in the top of the screen, I can hit the plus icon and make that a negative. And it's going to subtract the 8,500 square feet from the 599 for the pool and give me 7,900 square feet. Now we can also go in and measure the beds if we wanted to. We can swing in and dial in here And I'm not going to spend a lot of detail of it, but just so you have an idea. So this is what we've been doing here, is grabbing these areas here. And we've got now the landscape beds. Now, obviously, I'm not doing it for much detail, but just to give you an idea. Now, the idea would be if you took a screenshot of this, you can actually take this picture of the property and put it and save it in the system so the people on the crew can pull it up and see exactly what areas they're servicing and not servicing. So all the information in your head now is shared through the crews, and you're not the single point of knowledge or failure. So we're going to save that, and then we go into custom fields, and I'm going to subtract out or zero out the beds. So I've just got turf square footage of 7956. I'm going to select the custom field of turf square footage. You probably never have these many here, but in this test account, we've got a few. So I've got turf square footage here, and I'm going to hit save. So now the information is there. Next question is, what if we can't measure it online and we actually have to physically go out to measure those landscape beds or do something on site? The process we recommend and train to set up is an on-site estimate form. So once again, we're pulling out our mobile phone or a Chromebook and pulling this form up. And the idea is if we couldn't measure it on site, we enter the square footage in of the lawn. Linear landscape bed. So we're going in at bed edging. So let's say there's 500 linear feet of bed that needs to be edged. We've got 1,000 square foot that needs to be mulched, and small, medium, and large shrubs. That's how we start to create a production rate-based estimating system of time to trim and clean up each size shrub. So I'm going to put in 20 large, maybe 15 medium, 22 small. We get into hedgerows with or without a ladder and 10 linear feet. So I'm going to say there is 20 feet with a ladder. So that'd be 2 units, and there's 0 without a ladder. Now, shrub pruning, traditionally, once again, we pull out the old pen and make mistakes. What if it doesn't include the hedgerow on the back lot line? So we can actually type it in the form, hedgerow on west back lot line. Not included. So now this is going to happen is now we built this. This is going to merge these estimate descriptions right into the estimate without you ever forgetting it. So we're entering the information as we're in front of it, and it is relevant. So I won't go into the snow removal part here, but this is how we tackle that. So we're going to grab what's in your head and dump it into the on-site estimate form and hit submit. Now, we're going to close this out. And now we've either measured it online or we've gone out and physically gone to the property. And now we've got all that data. So just like in the flow chart, we're going to go in and hit add an estimate. And on that option, we're going to have a lead and client option. And if you're just joining us, we did put a link up there. We are having a 2-day implement event next week or next month live in your office. So it's a remote event. We're having these on a pretty much regular basis now, but we go in and we're going to grab our 219 lawn care leads because this person's not a client yet, and all our services are going to load. And it's a set it and forget it type deal. So the first example here is lawn mowing. So we've got our 7,900 square feet, and fictitiously we're charging $30 based on the matrices and production rates on the back. It's going to take us 0.4 man hours to do it, and it's going to cost us $14.76 before we make a profit. Now, you don't have to get into this detail, but I'm going to show you where you can get ninja level with this and really start to dial in a specific delegatable system. These are the things we're going to be teaching, whether you work with us knee to knee remotely, live, or even a 2-day implementer event. And I'm going to show you what that all looks like. But the idea here is these numbers on the left are postal codes or towns that we service. So I'm going to put a number 1 next to the first town here. And it's going to calculate an average cost, time, and charge for that drive time. So what the consumer is going to see is the lawn mowing for $38.09. We know on-site and drive time, it's going to take us 0.56 man hours, and it's going to cost us $20.67 before we make a profit, and it's going to give us a net profit margin of $45%. So the idea is we can track now and standardize an invisible estimating sheet behind the scenes. So I can track my on-site charge, my mobilization charge, and separate times. And all we do is go in and hit draft a quote, and it's a live estimate. Now, if anybody watching is doing design build, a base example, this is how we take other specific platforms that are built just for design build and recreate that whole process inside Service Autopilot. So if you're looking at a product called like LMN and you're using design build, that processes can be used identical, the same idea inside Service Autopilot. So if you can use your imagination of lawn mowing being paver patio, underneath it, instead of postal codes, we would have mobilization, picking up a delivery or delivery charge, site prep, excavation, laying the base, laying the bricks, final cut after site cleanup. Whatever those imaginary steps is, we would have a production rate based on square footage, linear feet, number of minutes or hours, or per unit. Maybe you have different production rates for a 1 gallon, 2 gallon, or 3 gallon shrub. We can have those in. So the idea is we're creating a non-emotional production rate estimating system with an imaginary checklist for the estimator. And the on-site estimate form would line up identical to this. So as you're on the site, you're plugging in the data, and when you pull this up, everything loads, and you literally review it and hit quote. So hopefully that makes some sense, because that's a big misconception. Service Autopilot can do this all when it's set up correctly with the right workflow. Next thing is fertilization. So we've got the same square footage of the turf. We've got a price per app, budgeted time, and a cost of $32.12 for most of the apps, labor and materials. So that's our net profit at the end. Now, if you look at grub control, fictitiously, we've set this up so the product cost is different. So we charge more for that. And maybe the application, the way we put it on is different. So we're able to have a higher budgeted time as well. So it gives you that granularity in the system when it's set up correctly to do that. We've got aeration based on that. So residential spring cleanup's a cool example here. So we've got our square footage, and we're in this test account, we're charging $50 per man hour. So based at 3 hours, we're charging $150. By default, we've loaded in the dump fee. So when we delegated the estimating of my company, traditionally people would sharpen their pencil or forget to win the job. So things should be on the estimate template to hold yourself accountable, or an estimator. You can default these in. Now we've got the same thing here. So I'm going to go in that same postal code where we charged about $8 for drive time and pull this up. And now it's $115 for drive time because we can do less spring cleanup jobs than we can mowing. So we've got a larger overhead of mobilization spread across fewer jobs. So we're able to track the on-site time, disposal, and drive time. And all the consumer is going to see down here is $2.95. So I'm going to hit quote. Now it's interesting down below here, residential spring cleanup subcontractors. This is how we've actually worked the system a little bit. And the way we did this is we had our subcontractors pricing, or they gave us their pricing. So we plug it in here, and then we give them the drive time. We didn't mark that up, but we wanted to be fair to them. But now we have left in draft, we know we're paying our subcontractor $215, and we're charging the consumer $2.95. So now the difference is documented. The customer never sees it, but now the business owner manager is not relied on to basically take care of a conflict of pricing for the subcontractor. So if Tammy or Christina in my office had a question of what we're paying the sub, they didn't have to call me now. They went back to the estimate, and that was the written word. So now we just start pulling the owner and manager out of the chaos, and that's the process here. Final thing is shrub pruning. So as we're in here as advertised, we've got our small, medium, and large shrubs. We've got a price, a budgeted time, and a cost before profit. So we've gone in, and the consumer has no idea that we're tracking how many shrubs and charging per shrub, but now we can literally train anyone ever to do this estimate. If you can tell them that a small shrub is up to 3 feet, a medium's 3 to under 6, and a large is from 6 to 10, and a hedgerow with or without a ladder, all 3 sides, is 1 unit for each 10 linear feet. They can just literally plug the numbers in, pull it up, and estimate it without any experience. So we're also going to go in, we've got that dump fee defaulted in again. I'm going to add that draft time again for that same postal code. A little bit different based on how many jobs we can do in a pruning average residential. But we've got $620 here for shrub pruning. I'm going to hit draft a quote. And remember, on our on-site estimate form, instead of grabbing our pen and paper and taking a note and trying to say that certain things were included or not included, we entered it in the form, and now it's automatically entered up here with no double entry. We created a process and system around this. So we're going to go in and quote the shrub pruning for $620. You'll see on this estimate when I open it up, the consumer has no idea that we're going to subcontract out some of this work. They have no idea we're counting it based on the number of shrubs. But now we've created a predictable process of $620 for the job, 10.59 man hours, so we know how long it should take, what it's costing us, $393 before profit, and our margin of 36% net. So we've created a standardized estimating system and a way to dispatch the job with accountability and be able to track it. So this is the system that we set up in Service Autopilot for you. Even if you're not using us, this is how you do it. And hopefully we do see it either in some of the options I'm going to show you later in the video here, but this is how we set this up. So we're going to hit save, and we're going to try to close them over the phone or in person, but if we can't, we're going to email it to them. We're going to hit email. This pre-templated email loads up. We don't have to rewrite it every time. We can delegate it because it's the same marketing copy. So this is how we tackled it. We've got some verbiage here and a clickable quote link, and we've got some buttons that you can click. So if they're on their mobile, they can click and text or call our office. And we included our lead letter. And these are the 5 or 6 main reasons why our business is different and why people want to do business with us and not our competitors. So we differentiate ourselves before they ever get to the price. We're taking price off the table as long as we're in the ballpark. And we included some client testimonials. So none of this has to be recreated. It loads. You can personalize a little note if you want. Otherwise, we're going to scroll down and literally just hit send. And while that's going here, if you have any questions in the video, mark it down. I'm going to hop into my email inbox here on the other screen and actually pull this estimate out so you can actually see what this looks like. But it's a pretty cool workflow process. So we've measured online. We've used the on-site estimate form, and then we've gone in and hit add an estimate. We've selected lead or client template, all the prices with budgeted time and cost before profit loaded. We just quoted the ones. We've saved it, hit email, the template email loads up, and then we've sent it. And now I'm going to hop in my email inbox and actually show you what this looks like. So here it is here, just as advertised. And what we did here is we scrolled down and hit view my proposal. But the whole entire thing's here. We never have to recreate it or copy and paste it. We're buying hours or weeks back, time after time now with this process. So now I'm your new consumer. I'm a lead. I'm clicking view my proposal. And yours doesn't have to look like this. This is a boilerplate example. But we got step 1, select the services you want. Step 2, sign the screen and accept. So best workflow practice, I've got a couple of things here I wouldn't recommend, but I'm going to show you the functionality. These checkboxes here can be checked or unchecked. I recommend having them unchecked so the consumer has to physically check on them. Service details for mowing here. You can include all the details on the line item. I recommend putting all those on the bottom, but a lot of people like to have it, so I have this in here as an example. But the main thing is $38.09 for lawn mowing. The consumer has no idea that we've charged on-site, off-site mobilization, but now we know we're covered. We've included a video now that plays live inside the estimate. So I'd really recommend using video. If you work with us, we can show you how to do this or help you do it. But in the video, this is your 24/7 salesperson. It's going to include what's included in the service, what's not included in the service, and we're going to overcome any sales or price objections. Do I need to be home to have the service done? Are you going to close the fence gate behind you? Whatever the concerns are based on that specific service, we address them up front through education. So I'm going to go in and select lawn mowing as a consumer. I'm going to scroll down. I got residential spring cleanup for $295. The consumer has no idea we're subcontracting this out for $215. We have an audit trail and a predictable estimating system now for a cleanup. And then shrub trimming is a beautiful thing. So we've just standardized the estimating based on counting how many shrubs, small, medium, and large, a drive time, a disposal fee, and we've standardized that at $620. That's a delegatable system that can be replicated. And special job notes, hedgerow on west back lot line right here is not included. So when we got out that paper and pen, we probably forget or it happens. We've standardized that workflow. So once again, we're just buying minutes and hours back throughout the year, and they add up to big bottom line profits. So now the consumer's selecting. So we got invoice details, contract terms, some more clickable buttons, and our 9 videos. So we topped our 9 core services, and we created that automated video presentation so consumers knew what was included, what was not included, and we addressed any of the misconceptions about that service up front before they were ever addressed. We're winning that trust back. Final thing is here, if you need to include anything like MSD labels or notifications, in New York, it's a tough place, but just a proof of concept, some other things you can do on these. Final thing is a consumer's going to go down, click here to sign estimate, sign electronically with their mouse, type their name in, and accept proposal. What's going to happen in about a minute is an automated email is going to fire off to me as a new customer now saying, hey, we've acknowledged you've accepted this estimate and we're going to call you to schedule that service. Very, very cool. And then if you use our automations, it drops them into a welcome a wow sequence where they get a welcome email and a credit card form to get that card on file if they need it. And then we drop them into a 30, 60, and 90-day follow-up for recurring services or a one-time follow-up for one-time service. A little outside of the scope of the video, but that can be the workflow, is it just drives an automated systematic workflow. So the next thing is I'm driving back into SA now, and I'm going to click out of this, and I would have gotten a notification that, hey, this person has signed up. And lo and behold, when we're back in here, the estimate status is marked to 1. And when I click back in here, this is key. Signature information with time and date stamped IP address is there. So if they don't pay us, or you need a signature on file for maybe snow removal for slip and fall or pesticide loss, this is here. And in addition, under attachments, we can go in and hit the estimate PDF, and it's the exact estimate, just the services they clicked on here. And at the bottom, there's an electronic signature all built inside the system. So we've streamlined the workflow, how to do this. And like I said, we can take these 5 to 6 screens of success and train somebody up and running in 7 to 10 days doing this. So that's how we tackle Service Autopilot. Also comes with an estimate blueprint. So we blueprint out to build all the services out. And when we do that, we take that and then build it in SA, and we give you the blueprint so you know exactly how each service was built, and you're self-reliant. So let me hop on the right of the screen here real quick and see if I can pull this out for you real quick. Because this is, in my opinion, a huge, huge benefit of doing this with SimpleGrowth is we don't just give you the fish. We actually teach you how to fish. And this is pretty instrumental, at least in my business when we did this, is we would have issues around this. So hopefully you can see this here, but what this is this is our blueprint. So we based this lawn mowing on lawn square footage in between 1 to 4,000 square feet. Our base price to show up is $40, and it's going to take us 20 minutes, 0.33 man hours, and it's costing us $11.55 before profit, fictitiously. And that's based on your numbers, so how much you want to get per man hour, so $60 per hour. Let's say it was costing you 40. This sheet automatically updates. So these 5 lines right here now are going to be the 5 lines you build out in the back end of SA. And I'll show you what this looks like. So the idea is you want to blueprint and then implement. If you try to blueprint and implement all on the same screen, that's where issues happen. So this is when you work with us as a certified advisor and somebody who's been doing this 25 plus years. The idea is we're going to give you the proven system that took us years to figure out through pain and suffering. We just literally teach you to the optimized workflow, and it's a turnkey solution. But the interesting thing is here, these 5 cells right here and the bottom 5 cells line up identical to your blueprint. So these 5 cells are these 5 cells. And these bottom 5 cells are these 5 cells. So when you work with us, whether in any of the areas that we're going to talk about in a minute and show you the pricing, we give you this blueprint to use and keep, and you just update your numbers. We customize the formulas in here to show the way you actually estimate in your business. And you can track your profit percentage to make sure you're billing these out correctly before you set them up in Service Autopilot, which is a huge, huge thing. So we're going to blueprint and then implement. You're never going to build a house without a blueprint, put random doors and windows everywhere. You should never, in my opinion, build a service matrices, whether it's in Service Autopilot or anywhere else, without a blueprint. So we give you that. We teach you how to use it. You get to keep that. We also have a thing we call the SA Audits. All the things you need to have set up correctly, we go through that with you to make sure it's set up for success. All those dots are connected correctly. If that wasn't enough, we also go in and show you how to use our KPI product, Key Performance Indicator product. This is a small additional fee for this, but you can build it out yourself if you'd want. But the idea of the KPI is creating accountability and tracking the daily versus the actual versus budgeted time daily, and then going in to raise your prices systematically with no emotion. So off the closeout day screen here, we would pull in, say, 18 budgeted hours. The crew has 18 hours. It's a 2-man crew. You fill in your start and stop, total hours, lunch, guys, girls' names on the crew, how many people are on there. What it comes down to is it gives you gross hours here, the lunch and says payroll hours is 19, and we gave them 18 hours to do it. So they had 19 or 18 hours to get it done, and they were over budget by 1 hour right here. So what this sheet does is highlights the budgeted time versus actual and gives you a percentage. So when this number is below 100%, it's an easy conversation. You guys or girls only gave 94%. You didn't do your job with a quality constraint. That's important. But let's just say we budgeted 19 hours right here, and it took them 19 hours. When the sheet catches up, it's going to come up to 100%. And what that is that's an easy conversation. You hit your budgeted time with a quality constraint. You gave 100%. You did your job today. But where it gets interesting is, let's say we gave them 20 hours and they did it in 19. They're 1 hour under budget. This percentage now comes up to 105%. So it's easy with the quality constraint, say, hey, you gave 105% today. You not only did your job, but you crushed it. So this is the public accountability. This percentage goes up on that dry erase board, the chalkboard, the TV monitor in the shop for public accountability with a quality score or rating. And now whether they've only worked 5 hours or 100 hours that week, it's an apples to apples comparison. As you scroll to the right, we've got all our crews. So we can track each crew each day. And then on the far left, we could sum all the crews so we have a clear view of our budget versus actual for the whole entire team. Now, that's just tracking on an average all your accounts. So these are all the things in that flow chart we're setting up sequentially for good data in, good data out. By using the sheet, it is emailed to you every morning at about 7 a.m. And if you don't do your homework, at 2 p.m. and 5 p.m., it'll text message you and yell at you. But so it's KPI plus accountability. Now that we have this, I recommend in July, in November or December, twice a year, we run a job costing report. And when we run that report, we export it out of Service Autopilot and paste it into our sheet here. So this is a test client here, but we've got their address, their name, and the lawn mowing and the dates. $54.28 is what we were charging per cut. The actual revenue per man hour is what we actually made per man hour on that crew based on the start and stop times on the closeout day screen. So remember when I said that was the most important screen in the entire system, because it's giving us the actual data of how much money we made per man hour. So on average, we're making $57.30 there. As we scroll through this now, if our goal was $50 per man hour and we're making 57, we're making more than our goal. And what the sheet says is based on that, your new price doesn't go up. It's the same. But let's say we needed to make $60 an hour. What the sheet does is non-emotionally tells us we need to raise our price on average per cut $2.56. So what this does is it helps us have a non-emotional estimating process. So when you see people on Facebook going, the beginning of the year, I'm going to raise my lawn mowing prices by $3 a cut or 5% across the board. Probably the stupidest thing you can do, in my opinion, because if my goal is $60 an hour and I'm generating 100, what you're doing is you're actually raising the prices on your most profitable accounts and risking them shopping you. So this way, we only raise the prices on the losers. So I recommend the end of the year, mid-year around July, when everybody's too busy to estimate. So if something's changing on the property, you did misestimate it, we can raise that price and we're not continue just dropping off a $20 bill maybe each week, because that's what we're losing when we're there doing the lawn. So that is the non-emotional way to raise those prices. So hopefully that wasn't too much, but if you're looking at getting Service Autopilot set up by SimpleGrowth and training, we have several different options. So the first option here is hourly screen sharing. So we charge $250 an hour via screen share. So we go in remote with you, we use that blueprint, and then we set it up and train you how to do it. Up to about 10 services with the estimate grids, documents, templates, everything you saw. In about 10 services with custom fields, we'll run about $14.97. With this service too, either way, that's about where you would be. We also offer a thing called a deep dive, a 1 day or a 2 day deep dive. A 1 day deep dive runs $4,000. You have to fly to upstate New York here and hang out with us at our office. It comes with 2 pre-calls and 1 post-call for the 1 day deep dive. So we get all the homework out of the way. We help you get the information you need, and we do that audit of SA. Then we spend 8 or 9 hours in an executive boardroom, need to need, and we work on it and we train and set up. 2 day deep dive is where the rubber really hits the road. Now we've done well over 100 of these in the last 13 or 14 months. 2 day deep dive, you come in for $7,000. You get 3 pre-calls, about an hour each via screen share. You get 16 hours in person, plus dinner with myself or one of the SimpleGrowth members, usually myself. So we kind of revamp everything we did the day before, and then we get back in and hit it again. And then we have additional 2 calls after that. That's a $7,000 deep dive. And obviously, you want to drop us a call or set up an appointment to talk about these. But a lot of people want to know, how do we set up Service Autopilot? What does it cost? What are the options? And then the final option is that 2-day implementer event. So I'm going to put that in the notes again. But the 2-day implementer event is the other option, which is a little bit more cost effective. We're going to have up to, or basically 16 hours of training via screen share. So our 2-day event is going to be broadcasted live over GoToMeeting. And what's going to happen there, and I just put the link in the video, or click the button below. But that is going to be 2 days, 8 hours each, where we go through that whole entire workflow with the blueprint. We give you a estimate request for your website. We give you the documents, the grids, and we teach you how to do it in 2 days. So basically 16 hours remote. And you have the option of actually buying the package where you get 6 months of the recording. So that's going to be done next month. The dates and details are on that link. So different options. If you have any comments or questions while you're watching live, this is how we tackle it. But set up a training Service Autopilot, 2 15-hour remote via screen share, paid after each call. Up to about 10 services with custom fields, estimate grids, documents, and layout is $14.97. Done remote via screen share. A 1-day deep dive in New York includes 2 phone calls before and 1 after. And that's 8 hours live with myself, Mike Callahan, in Rochester, New York. And we also take you out to dinner there. The second option is a 2-day deep dive, which where most people go. They come to New York here with us. It's $7,000. And you have 3 1-hour calls beforehand to get everything set up, get the homework done. Then we go in 2 days, 8 hours each. So you get about 16 to 17 hours in the boardroom, locked in, getting it done, setting up and training. We go out to dinner the first night at a real nice high-end joint for experience. And then after the deep dive, we have 2 additional hour calls for training and button up any of the loose ends that you may have pop up as questions afterwards after you start using the new system. But if you're looking to have a turnkey set up a Service Autopilot, we have several options. And if you don't own Service Autopilot yet, as a certified advisor, we can resell that to you. And when you buy it through SimpleGrowth, we give you about a $250 value of all the estimate documents and grids and emails that I showed you there, turnkey in your Service Autopilot, whether we set it up or not. So added benefit as a certified advisor. We like to pay that forward if you buy Service Autopilot directly through us. So comments or questions, recorded version, a live version, feel free to drop them. But hopefully this is helpful. And the link under the video or the button under the video, you can click that and sign up for any of these services or our 2-day live remote implementer event where you get basically 16 hours with myself and the SimpleGrowth team. We walk through everything and more that we just talked about. We're going to be talking about conversational marketing, lifecycle marketing, how to implement some other things as well in there. But it's going to be 16 hours and the ability to watch that video for up to 6 months after the live event. So huge value there. We did one in New York, Tampa, and Dallas last year. And a lot of people just couldn't afford schedule-wise to get out there. So if you want to start out your season the right way, click the button below or that link below, sign up. And then even if you can't make those 2 dates there listed, you have up to 6 months to watch that video. But it is going to be limited capacity because we can only fit 100 people on our GoToMeeting event there. So hopefully it was helpful, but we wanted to be transparent of what we do, what we don't do, and how we actually set up Service Autopilot as an expert and support you for success in your business, specifically in this training for the lawn care industry.